How to learn. I'm going to share with you ways to learn. Want to go over something that might help you, give you a couple quick tips, and get you on your way to coming up with an approach that works for you to learn. Welcome, colleagues. George Sloan. This is Myford University. You can visit myforduniversity.com or you can visit the Myford University channel. We also have a sub channel if you're more interested in MBA stuff, the MBA Accelerator channel. Um, how to learn. Real quick, I want to share with you how I learned how to do certain things. Um, the topic I'm going to mention is drawing. Uh, like most other things, I'm self taught with a lot of things, and I want to share with you how I learned how to draw because there's some lessons here. Um, at a very young age, I started to want to draw things. And the way I started was, I would want to get more realistic and I wanted to get, better at replicating certain things. And probably around the age of 7, I would take a comic book, for example, pick a frame and try to replicate the picture freehand on a separate piece of paper. Um, would it come out right the first time? Absolutely not. But after I did it a few times, it got better and better. Um, what was the lesson in that? Well, two lessons. One, you got to decide that you want to do it. I picked a goal. I wanted to be able to replicate a frame in a comic book. And number two, I learned and used the technique of repetition. Repetition is the mother of learning, as the old expression goes. The more times you do something, the better you get. So as time went by, I got better and better. And with the little wins I was racking up, I was able to do more and more to the point where I had, by high school, drawings and paintings and prints that were actually going into exhibits and, winning competitions. Uh, again, it was a learning process, but most of it comes from one, a desire to do it, and two, repeating it until you get it right. So a little trial and error, I guess. Let's talk about two examples that many of you might know. And I use these examples all the time in the videos that you watch here. How did you learn how to, walk? You didn't just get up and start walking. I always say, you were a baby, you had to learn how to flip over. Then you had to learn how to sit up. Then you had to learn how to, lift yourself with your arms. Then you had to learn how to coordinate moving your legs and your arms together to crawl. Once you got crawling down, you would start to stand up, holding on to something else. And then the next thing you know, you were starting to take your awkward steps. Then you're taking better steps, and then you're running like a maniac. And your parents were never the same. Process there, once again, desire to get mobility, desire to see and explore, and repetition, trial and error until you got it right. It didn't happen overnight. Some things can be learned quickly, some things not. Let's talk about the example I use sometimes of the bicycle. How'd you learn how to ride a bicycle? Well, you started with training wheels. Then, when you got comfortable, one of the training wheels was taken off. Then, two of the training wheels were taken off. Then, someone would guide you holding the seat. And then, eventually, you got the courage up and you started to ride. Then, you'd fall, get on, do it again, and eventually, you got real comfortable with it. Next thing you know, you're letting go of the handlebars or you're doing stunts with your friends like we used to do. We used ramps and everything else. Um, Bottom line there, once again, trial and error, getting proficient at it. Uh, Not something that develops overnight. I'll give you another example. I always, remember this from my tennis coach when I was a kid. You want to get better at playing tennis, don't play with people who are not as good as you or the same as you. You want to get better at tennis, you have to step it up a notch and play people who are better than you because then you innovate, then you pivot, then you iterate, and you find ways to do things a little bit differently so that your game elevates and gets better. Same thing with your personal and professional life. You want to get better at something, you got to do it and you got to compete and you got to do it in a way where you start to get intuition on how to do it, and then innovation where you figure out something new and you fool them with something that they've never seen before. That's how you get better. That's how you beat them. So when it comes to learning, get a desire to learn it. Accept the fact it's going to take a little bit of time. Do some trial and error, iterate, innovate, find ways to get better and better. Up your game. And here's the really great thing: when you start learning one thing and you've learned how to master it to some degree, you will then be able to apply that same process, because now you have a learning process, and it might be tied into a thinking process, but a learning process. And that is how you're going to advance and learn other things. Human beings were designed to be creative and be innovative and find solutions to problems. So the idea of coming up with a learning methodology and approach, one that works for you, I outlined some of the ones that I use and the way I work, but find one that works for you and continue to do it, and you'll get better. So when you ask how to learn, there's a set of ideas and approaches that you can, boil down to their simplest form and learn something. Um, with that, visit myforduniversity.com. We've got plenty of great resources. Visit the channels on YouTube. That's the Myford University channel, the MBA Accelerator channel. I'm George Sloan. I'm glad you tuned in. Remember, you want to learn it fast and apply it faster, because applying it is what really makes the difference, and get those real world results. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you the next time.